afternoon, everybody. That was very weak. Good afternoon, everybody. There you go. Let's be polite and cordial. My goodness. I have a tendency to drink coffee, yes, sir. No, I like it, though.
That's not a good combination. You with coffee.
All right, we'll open it up with questions. We'll open it up with Bill.
Cameron Johnston obviously had a very good game. Could you talk about his development and the confidence that this kind of game gives him?
Well, I think as anyone would expect for somebody from not just a small school or something like that, but from a completely foreign environment to come into this environment and have to perform is going to take a little bit of time. And so without having had the benefit of spring ball and all those kind of things, I think his development has been extraordinary and very rapid. He obviously has talent, but there is a lot more that goes into being the punter, particularly here, than just talent, just being able to catch a ball and kick a ball. There's a lot more that goes into it. And I think his development, obviously, he had a great game on Saturday, but I believe there are better days ahead for him. So we're very encouraged.
He had this reputation for these booming 70, 80-yard kids. Can he do that? And obviously it's something that you're not preaching him to do because of your philosophy.
Correct. It's not the philosophy. And if we want to go out there and watch him and ooh and ah anytime, we can do that. But at the same time, you'll find the teams that do that have returns that are extensive. We want to cover kicks. We want to flip the field and make sure the other team doesn't return the ball. And I don't know how many in a row we had without anybody returning them until Saturday, and even that return was minimal. That's the objective. And hang time is critical, and he's getting better there. That last kick Saturday night I thought was huge. And the hang time was 4.47, and I don't know how long it was, but it was long. And then, of course, Devin's coverage was fantastic.
Middle row, Dave.
Coach, how well is Duran Grant playing? He seems to be playing really well. How well is he grading out?
I think that Saturday coming off the field, I probably felt a little bit better about him than I did watching the film. I think he's grading out fine. I think the standards here are extraordinarily high, and we're going to continue to work to improve. Armani had been sick during the week, and so didn't get as many reps on Saturday, but you would expect him to continue to play. But we're excited and encouraged by Duran, and we're going to continue to put more and more on his plate as we go forward.
I want to ask you about replacing Christian Bryant, too. I know you don't coach safeties, but Pitt Brown, what have you seen out of him?
I think the exciting thing about Pitt Brown is he's an extremely versatile player. We plug him in a lot of roles, whether it be nickel last year, dime this year. He's always consistent as a safety in practice, and we use him in all of the special teams. So Pitt's versatility is a big key to both his and our success, and looking forward to him getting out there and playing.
Front row, Tim.
Yeah, two quickies. Number one, Kerry, as y'all go into practice, y'all don't practice today, do you? Or do you? As y'all go into practice tomorrow, who will be at that starting safety spot for Christian Bryant, do you think?
Yeah, I think as we sit here this afternoon that Pitt Brown will go in there and play. I don't know exactly the configuration of how all those guys are going to fit going into the week, and some of that will be developed and discussed during practice. And so, but our guys are, they're versatile players back there. I think that gets understated somewhat. There's a lot of kids that can play field corner, boundary corner, nickel, strong safety, free safety. You've got a lot of similar types of athletes, and I think that that's part of the plan in recruiting.
And the other thing, I asked Coach Meyer about this earlier, is he said Bradley Roby didn't have a game that was up to Roby standards and stuff. How do you kind of like take a guy, obviously he got banged up early in that game too, but what do you say to him this week and et cetera to get him back on the horse, so to speak? And
well, I think first of all, great corners have very limited consciences. They're not too concerned about the last play, and we asked an awful lot of him this week. And I'm not going to tell you that we asked more than what he's capable of delivering, because I don't think that that's true. I think the kid he played against was very good, but I think we made a determination as a coaching staff that in order to win that game, you stop the run. That's what they do, and they do it very, very well. And in order to stop the run, you commit a lot of guys to the box, and we committed a lot of guys to the box and left the kid on an island, and a very, very gifted player. I would agree with Coach Meyer. I don't think that game was up to his standards. I'm sure he would tell you the same thing. At the same time, he made a lot of plays. He had 27 production points before you take some minus points away. And so we have to acknowledge that. We're going to hang our hat on that kid. He'll come back this week, and he'll play great.
Front row, far far left. Rusty?
How big of a loss was it in terms of intangibles with Christian, and how do you make up that gap?
Well, it's a team sport. And I think that, first of all, anytime you lose a player, it's a loss. And anybody that doesn't acknowledge that would be foolish. I think with Christian, he's a guy that has no hesitancy in standing in front of the team and addressing them, addressing the defense. And there's only a handful of guys that are able to do that with credibility in any locker room. And he's one of them. And so that void, I don't expect that he will not continue to play that role, to be honest with you, Rusty. I believe that this team is still, in large part, Christian Bryant's team. He's going to show up, and he cares passionately about the Buckeyes. At the same time, there's going to have to be players who step in and fill that void, not just from the vocal standpoint, but also from their style of play. He's a hustler. He's an intense player. He's an aggressive player, and it will fall on others to fill that void.
Far right, Coach Clay Hall.
Hi, Clay.
Coach Clay Hall, ABC6, Fox 28. I know it's probably been told and recounted. How did Cameron Johnson get here? Was he marketed? I understand maybe the guy sends out tapes, etc. Why was it him, and why did you feel you couldn't get a punter from between here and Australia?
Well, I don't know that we couldn't have. Our job is to find the best one. And our job is not to limit that search to anywhere. Obviously, we look through the state of Ohio for all of our players first. But beyond that, in a situation we were in, Coach Meyer's pretty clear, Clay, about all of our responsibilities. He said, go find your punter now. I don't care where you find him. I don't care where you get him. Go find your punter. I remember he looked at me and said, well, I'm glad I'm not coaching the punt team. Well, he does coach the punt team. And go find you a punter. So that direction was pretty clear. And we looked everywhere. And I mean everywhere. And we got film coming in from all different avenues. And one of the avenues is Australia. And those kids have had success here for whatever reason. For whatever reason, there's about 13 of them in the NCAA right now, and they've had success. So you take a look at all of them, and that was exhausting and tiresome. And, you don't really know what you're looking at. And then you're trying to figure out what kind of a person it is, what kind of kid it is, how is he going to be able to manage this? Well, this kid happened to be 21. He happened to have already played Australian rules football. He had a lot of those things going on. So there's all these phone calls, and you still don't have a name with a face, and all that. You watch the video, and then you got to bring him here, and you got to visit with him. And you got to spend time with him and try to find out if he's got that inner character, because that's a different deal now. To go out there and catch that snap all by your lonesome and kick it with a bunch of guys running at you when you've never even put a helmet on. And I remember the first conversation we had with the guys in Australia. I said, you know what? I got to see the guy against a rush and with a helmet. All next thing I know, he's sending me video with a guy in a helmet and shoulder pads and these other jokers running at him. It's still not the same, but at least it showed you something. And and then we can't even work with him over the summer. You find out that he can run, and you find out all that stuff. But I really like the kid. He and you guys understand the kind of pressure we put our players under, and it's really hard to crack that dude. And he's unique and he's fun. And I think that long term he's going to have a phenomenal career at Ohio State.
Well, that was job one for you.
Well, it was finding a punter. And I mean, that was pretty important. And recruiting for that class was done. And so while you're working on the next class, go find a punter. And we were lucky. We did.
And that,
I'm sorry?
Did you go to Australia?
Urban was telling me about going to Australia. And he said, you're going to have to go. And I said, obviously trying everything I could to avoid that, because that's like a 36-hour trip for 2 hours to come back. It was against the rules for me to see him do anything. So I couldn't go watch him punt or anything like that in person. So because of that, why fly there and see him? Why not just bring him here? And we brought him here and spent a lot of time with him. And, like you would on any other official visit with him and Drew Basil and my wife, and just all those conversations, trying to find out what kind of kid he was. Certainly easier for me to do it here. I mean, he had like a 24-hour flight to get here, but it worked out better to bring him here.
It should be noted, too, I don't know if you guys have caught this yet, but he is the Special Teams Player of the Week for the Big Ten Conference this week. The Big Ten's having some trouble with their release, but Cameron is the Player of the Week for the Big Ten in Special Teams. Far left, Doug?
Kerry, you guys against Cal, played 6, sometimes 7 DBs
Yep.
in that game. Is this Northwestern offense a type of offense where you might be in the dime package a decent amount, or how do you think he'll deploy?
Well, we're playing dime quite a bit throughout the course of the year. Given the situation, sometimes third down, sometimes just based on the offense that we're facing. I don't think Northwestern is I don't think they're as much in that throw game as Cal. Right now, they still run the ball extremely well. A quarterback that runs the ball really well. They got quality running backs. So I think you have to be careful about over-substituting defensive backs. I think we'll have those packages ready to go. At the same time, I don't think that will be as important as it was against Cal. As I sit here on Monday, on Thursday it might be different.
I don't know. Venrick Mark, I guess, has not played much for them so far, the running back from Northwestern. Right. It seems like he'll be back for this game. What will
really
that
talented kid. I don't know how they will change their offense. I know that that's a talented kid running the ball. I don't think that they'll make wholesale changes in what they do. They're just going to give the ball to a really good player. And, so how that makes us account for that, you got to defend the option game in all phases. And that's really zone read and all that kind of stuff. That's really important. But I think it's a talented player coming back on the field for them.
One final question, Todd.
With Roby, not to belabor the Roby point, but
sure.
With an All-American candidate, is it unrealistic for people to expect that he's going to go out there and shut down a guy like, Aberderis for Wisconsin?
I think you have to understand, once again, the context of any defensive setup or strategy. And based on how many guys they keep in to protect and how they decide to attack your defense, they have more or less time to throw the ball. And I think Tom Herman would tell you that a well-thrown ball on time in one-on-one coverage is really, really hard to defend, and it is for anybody, All-American candidate or not. Kid that you're covering is a quality receiver. I thought their quarterback threw the ball well. So, no, do I think it's unrealistic? No. Do I think you would not play a whole game like that if that was what they did? What they do is run the ball really, really well. What they had trouble doing was running the ball really, really well. So we accomplished taking that piece of the game away at the risk and expense of other pieces of defense. Before I leave, I do want to say one thing. There's a lot of kids at Cincinnati that I coached and recruited, and they lost a player that was a kid that I'd recruited down there. And I just want to publicly say to them and to the people down there how sorry all of us are here at Ohio State, just because you really do come to love these kids. And when those kind of tragedies befall anybody, it's devastating. And it's been, a hard couple weeks here for similar kind of reasons, and hard weeks for them. And just want to share my condolences with the entire Cincinnati staff and football family. Thanks, guys.